Sam's around our age. I wonder if he remembers the skeet shoot game. We welcome in from the Athletic, brought to you by Jiffy Lube. Looks like a hotel room background, so I'm going to say Indianapolis. Looks like an Indianapolis hotel.
Totally.
You can always tell. Beep, beep. The one, the only Sam Amick. Good morning, Samuel.
Good morning. Dave, trying to cut into my sleep. Come on, man.
Hey, dude, isn't it like 10 a.m. there?
Bro, do you know what time the game started last night?
5:30.
Yeah, 8:30 Eastern.
Oh, are you 3 hours ahead?
Yes.
So it's 11.
So it's 11 there, slacker.
Yes,
What do you-
it is 11.
What?
We have late nights. It is that time of year. Jay, he calls me at like 20 minutes before and then texts me and says, it went straight to voicemail, as if he's my mother.
I was worried. It was like 20 minutes before. I was worried.
He was very worried about
I thought
you,
maybe
Sam.
you were on a plane. Maybe you were, something, enjoying the day life in Indy.
No, we're good. I was sneaking in 6 hours, if that's okay with you.
Sam is also in postseason form right now as he joins us live from Indianapolis. Hey, real quick, we were having just killing the time, having fun conversation. We hopped on. You're originally from Pleasanton, but did you move up here in time to know Samstown up in Placerville?
Named after you.
The video game haven up there. Were you around then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, and then secondly, do you remember the trap shoot game they used to have at like round tables where you had the big wide screen and you were trying to shoot the little tennis ball looking things with the little box with the button on your hand? Does that strike a bell at all?
That does not that one.
All right. Well, there goes that. A lot of people on the text line.
Oh, thanks, Sam.
Yeah, thanks, Sam.
Yeah.
Well, that'll do it. Sam brought to you by Jiffy.
That'll do.
Sam, starting to hear rumors. Let me just go random here before we get to the finals. Mike Brown is now in the sights of the New York Knicks, along with Taylor Jenkins, as they have been rejected by everybody, it seems, in the world to be the head coach. Number one, I don't know if you're probably focused on the finals, if you've heard anything. And number two, just as a general thing, is it weird that they fired Tom Thibodeau without a coach in mind? This just seems really goofy.
I love when, first of all, I'll preface this because you're such a loyal Athletic subscriber and a longtime supporter of mine, but this is a new one for you where you just detailed the whole entire column I wrote this morning. Clearly didn't see it. Are you being facetious or no?
Or wait a minute. Or did I read it? And am I just throwing you a softball since you woke up 20 minutes ago?
Yeah, that's fair. Well, no, but you could have just said
I didn't read it. Go ahead though. I will.
No, so I did. It was kind of a fun night. The advantage, this is way too in the weeds, but because we have a lot of people at the finals, every once in a while I can zig when others zag in terms of coverage. So the Knicks thing was so loud yesterday that I decided to sit at game 3 of the finals and naturally write about the Knicks coaching search. I reached out to a bunch of people, and I mean, the bottom line, as far as what I tried to break down, is that you just hit the nail on the head. Like the first line of the column is that everybody keeps saying, what is the plan? Well, firing Tom Thibodeau was the plan. And the plan stops at that point. They didn't have a plan after that. And I think what people were slow to understand is that, and we've seen this before, Tom was one of those coaches who was in, very quietly in hot water before the playoffs even began. And it reminded me of Mike Budenholzer a couple of years ago when he was also in hot water going into the playoffs in 2021 with Milwaukee. And then they won the championship. And then everybody was, we love Mike. Mike's great, and we were, media wise, we were kind of sitting there going, wait, you literally told us 5 minutes ago that unless he gets out of the, conference finals or whatever. So, that's that. And then from there, I mean, I haven't seen anything like this. They are trying to, kind of steal everybody else's head coach. 5 guys that we know of. I tried to get some more names, and I even wrote the ones that you could take off the list. So they did not ask for permission to talk to Steve Kerr or JJ Redick or Doc Rivers or Ty Lue. There's one other one on there, I think, but to your initial question, yes, Mike Brown does appear to be a focus, like in the post, once they get past this stage of asking and getting denied permission. So we'll see what happens. Taylor Jenkins as well. The Mike thing is fascinating because he interviewed when Tibbs got the job. In fact, people around him kind of feel like by the time he interviewed, Tibbs already had the job. But a lot of the Knicks people really liked Mike, and he's got a lot of history with Worldwide West from their days in Cleveland together when Mike was the Cavs coach. So we'll see what happens here.
The part I don't blame them for asking for permission for some of these guys that they've been coveting, Finch and Udoka, and go down the line. But, once the first team kind of says no, the first team that says yes, how awkward is that?
Yeah. I mean, 100%. I mean,
if there is a yes.
Somebody with the Pacers was saying that last. Oh, Rick Carlisle also, by the way, they did not ask for permission for Rick.
There we go. Doug Christie. I don't think I heard that.
Sorry, no offense. I didn't ask. That would be awkward, Jay, because that obviously would reveal that that your team doesn't love you like you thought they did. So yeah, I mean I couldn't agree more. Again, the bigger thing is just like I know sometimes media wise we are guilty of like when Mike Brown got fired, and I still think it was a terrible choice. They killed the organizations for making these choices. It's a lot of times it's more just about process. And so in this instance, it just seems insane to forget about me, just a lot of smart NBA people that, this guy got you to the East Finals for the first time in a quarter century and really reshaped what you were doing. And somehow, because he didn't get to the finals or win the title, he's out of work.
You remember you and I were talking with Jason last week, and you happened to be listening, and we appreciate that. When we were having a conversation about stages of new ownership, and James Dolan's not a new owner, but I want to ask you, the Knicks are notoriously not great under James Dolan, historically, I should say. And there seems to be sometimes franchises that historically aren't great. They will occasionally either back into success via a draft pick, something, they catch lightning in a bottle. Or sometimes I think you see the owner like, I've had enough. Okay, cool. I'm stepping away. I can't deal with this. Go ahead. Hands off. And then the team gets successful. And then it's like the old fairy tale, like everybody comes back to the fray and now wants to put their hands on it. And I feel like there was a little bit of that here in Sacramento. But why does this seem, Sam, from the outside that this is one of those things where maybe everybody, they fell into this, they worked their way into it, they brought in Worldwide West, they brought in Leon Rose, and it just seems like these are unforced errors that a franchise notoriously bad at basketball things would start making all over again. Yeah,
well, it's that, and to add some substance to what you're saying about Dolan, my buddy and colleague Vince Goodwill at Yahoo Sports had a good column a few days ago that detailed how Dolan actually sat in on player exit interviews this year, which is something that was not certainly the norm. And so that struck people as a little odd in terms of his level of involvement. And that was before they fired Tibbs. Clearly he heard some stuff that he thought justified maybe what he already felt, or, maybe he learned some things along the way. I don't know. So there's that. And then I also think the Knicks have a really complicated front office and power, structure, if you will. I mean, they got Leon Rose, they got Worldwide West, they have Gerson Rosas, previously of the Rockets and the Timberwolves. They've got Frank Zanin, a guy who's been in the league a long time. Brock Aller is another one. So all these people where, on the one hand, I don't think it's, depth is not bad, but it just seems like they have factions. And so admittedly, it's a lot of times hard to figure out who made the decision, even though Leon runs it and Wes is a big time influencer. But yeah, to go back to the original point, the Dolan thing in the exit interview was certainly a tell, and I think helps crystallize, the way this particular situation went down.
Sam, I know being at the finals, you have access to all your colleagues and but everybody out there that's covering the sport. Is that the biggest topic? Is it Durant, Giannis? The finals itself? Like, what are you guys kind of talking about collectively while you're at the finals?
Yeah, I mean, that's the hit list, Jay, that you just broke down. Certainly, the finals themselves. I mean, honestly, as much as I'm pretty road weary at this point, and media wise, we end up kind of rooting for a short series so we can go home, which sounds like a very not grateful attitude that we're guilty of at times. Then you see a game last night, which even though I was writing the Knicks column, like writing the Knicks column actually made me enjoy the game more because I was in a different headspace, and I was actually excited that this is now a pretty good story. Like we have a team that if they won the title, it could be one of the best underdog championships of all time. So the finals are certainly a focus, and within that, the discussion about small markets and ratings and kind of that idea that I think it's good for the game. Like I feel like they are investing in some players and some markets right now that they need to take a long-term view on. So that's one topic. Certainly Giannis, KD, all of the above, and especially because we're now getting, what do we had, June 12th? We're getting pretty close to free agency being around the corner, trade season being around the corner, the draft, obviously. So it's kind of a hodgepodge, and that's why I wrote the Knicks thing, is because I was at the finals just sitting there being struck by the fact that, a lot of people were not, talking about the game before the game. They were talking about what's going on with the Knicks.
Sam Amick joining us live from Indianapolis. It's interesting. I was going to do this segment yesterday and we got a little busy, so maybe we'll do it tomorrow or at some point, but it was going to be come up with three faces of the NBA for three generations. You have the old guard, you have the guys in right now, and then you have the next generation. Okay, and so for example, let's say Victor Wembanyama is the face of the next generation. The point of the conversation would be, is Anthony Edwards now or is he the future? Is Giannis now or is he old guard? And then you get to Tyrese Halliburton and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the MVP, but I don't think anybody would say he's the face or one of the faces of the NBA. Tyrese Halliburton would almost certainly, you'd think, be in the future guard of the NBA. But here you have both of these teams led by these two guys that are still relatively new in the zeitgeist. I'm not saying, Sam, people don't know who they are, but this isn't Steph, LeBron, Jokic, Giannis. Hell, I would argue Anthony Edwards is more popular than Tyrese Halliburton and SGA combined, at least before this series. It's just, you talked about ratings, and that's what got me going. It's a weird dynamic in this finals that you have these future current guards going at it, and when it's all done, one of them's wearing a ring.
Yeah, no, it is new. You just kind of gave me a flashback to last night to that point. I agree with everything you said. David Aldridge, the legendary writer and former broadcast, a guy whose name might be bigger than some of the players' names that you mentioned as well. Yeah. We were talking about, or he was talking to one of my colleagues about story angles off game 3. And this is in the final 30 seconds of the game, like the chaos. Hey, what are we doing? And I was eavesdropping because I was sitting in between them, and he's sitting there going, well, we got to have something on. Obi Toppin was great. We got to have something on Obi. We got to have a TJ McConnell story. And he's not that he was wrong, but I was just like, what are we doing here? Like, this is our coverage, and that's certainly below the Halliburton SGA level. These are deep teams. SGA is a total star, and I think his profile is going to continue to rise. And that goes back to the whole investing thing, same thing with Halliburton. But it's, not to be corny, but we're in the Hoosier State. Like, these are two deep basketball teams. They are just basketball teams, and they're not hand the ball to a guy and watch him cook for 20 seconds of the clock. Their recipe for success is playing 8-9 guys, is playing both ends of the ball. And that means that it's going to be a very different experience than, the watching Luka do his thing, or LeBron or Joker or Steph Curry even. I like it. I think there's going to be a ripple effect on the conversation around these players, because this stage, even with the ratings being down, this is a massive stage that you do pull in some of the grandmothers and the people who don't normally watch basketball. They flip it on and they're going to be a little more familiar with this crew. And I think the length of the series and the level of drama will only help that, which, in that regard, I think they're in a good place right now.
Yeah, and on that note, Sam, I mean, now that it's 2-1 and Indiana gets home court, or still has home court, the way they won yesterday, the way they played yesterday, the depth and how many people played well, they've been the underdog. They're probably still the underdog. At this point, do you feel like they can win this series?
I mean, I can't say no after last night. I also am enjoying being like a total non-expert when it comes to the Pacers. And I say that because, as you guys know, like my schedule and my routine for the calendar year is I try to not have to travel too much during the regular season. So I'm West Coast based. I catch teams as they come through. So that means I saw Indiana, I think in like December or January, when they were off to a bad start. They were 10-15. And I wrote a piece at that time about the Pacers and then forgot about them for a few months for the most part. So I'm just not in tune with the Pacers. That was the first Pacers home game that I've been to since the Paul George days.
Wow.
So all of which is to say that I think that's accurate, but it's in that neighborhood. Like watching, to your question, Jay, like watching the game last night, can they win the whole series? I had to kind of like take in the environment and see like, oh, wow, like the Pacers, they play differently here. They really did control that game. I know it was back and forth and quite a few lead changes, but the vibe was different than OKC when it comes to confidence, when it comes to energy. It was just impressive to watch. So it's hard for me to say now that they can't do it. The best thing for the audience and for us is that 2-1 Pacers is the only scenario, I think, where people would actually, as opposed to them going down 2-1, where people would actually start really tuning into this series and saying, holy smokes, like this historic OKC team might actually be in trouble.
It's funny how everybody calls this the Paul George series, snarkily.
Yeah.
Not enough people call it
It's
the Damont, but it's also the Damont Sabonis series, isn't it? That's how they got Paul George, who they flipped for SGA, and they flipped Sabonis. The Pacers did for Halliburton. I feel like, and I'm good with it, but I feel like Sabonis is dodging a couple bullets in this whole thing, and Paul George is getting them all.
Well, I see, Jason, here he goes again. He clearly didn't read my story last week when I'm still
paying.
I know. When I interviewed, so I wrote about Halliburton, and I was admittedly a little surprised by this. It talked all about revisiting the Halliburton trade, and I chatted with Chad Buchanan, the Pacers GM, who was obviously part of that deal. And on the record, the quote that surprised me a bit was that Chad, and I'm paraphrasing here, basically said that they made a decision that you really can't build around a big man unless he's somebody like Nikola Jokic. And that's why they went looking for guards like Halliburton. Admittedly, Sabonis took a bit of a stray there. And you're right. I mean, he's a big part of the backstory of how that team was built.
Oop, did we freeze out Sam here? He's Michael buffering.
He is buffering.
And now Sam has never looked better. See, I was talking with Kyle. For those of you watching on YouTube, you may see me talking into my microphone while Sam was talking. That's our internal feed, because I've been noticing, at least on my screen, that there's been some buffering. I even asked the audience if they saw any of this buffering going on, and Sam's joining us via StreamYard via video from Indy. And there's something goofy was happening when he came on my screen, but you were saying it didn't.
Yeah, on
affect
mine
you.
it was fine.
Yeah, it didn't affect you at all.
Now it did.
Which now it did. Right as he was wrapping up a really good question.
Yeah.
A really good answer to the thing. Oh, there he is. He's back. Hey, Sam.
I refreshed. Did you guys catch any of that? Or
yeah, it caught the majority, not the finish.
It cut you, I think, just as you were wrapping up with Sabonis being a part of that in the background.
Got it. All right.
Okay.
We back.
So before we leave, and Sam's, I hate throwing you curveballs sometimes because I know you're focused on the finals, and we didn't talk about this at all before. Have the Peja Stojakovic comments made it to you at all?
Negative.
Okay. He was speaking on a podcast a couple days ago, and he said, I'm just going to quote him here. It seems there was a directive from DeAaron Fox's agent, Rich Paul, who played a key role and blackmailed the teams on which player was supposed to get traded where. He brought Fox to the Spurs, and Zach LaVine, who is his player, brought him to Sacramento. By doing this, he limited Sacramento from a business standpoint, stating that they get a bit more from this trade with Fox if they had the same discussion with some other teams in the NBA. That's what Peja did yesterday. People are talking about it today. We talked about it a couple segments ago. I just wanted to bounce this off you. We were saying basically that the term blackmailed, I think, is what people are getting hung up on. But did he say anything there that's – I didn't see him saying anything that was factually incorrect. You know,
he chose his team.
Right. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, no, you go. What were you going to add?
I was just going to say that because I said a lot to you, I was going to crystallize that he hired Rich Paul. Rich Paul did what Rich Paul does and any good agent does. And they had the Kings a little bit leveraged, and the Kings had a choice to either sit on DeAaron for a while or trade him to the Spurs, or to try to find another team that thought they could convince him to re-sign there. I just think the term blackmail is what's got people a little tripped up.
Yeah, no, I would agree. It's kind of a sloppy word. I mean, it's that is, that's what happened. He targeted a team. I still don't understand. I mean, the LaVine part, I don't think I'm not putting that. I mean, of course, Zach is Rich's guy, but I mean, the Kings were well within their rights to say, no, thank you. We are going to go after, Stephen Castle and Devin Vassell and whoever else. I still won't understand. Like, that sort of energy that Peja has didn't exist during the process. Behind the scenes, there weren't Kings people, whether it's Monty or Wes or anybody else, saying, even to the media quietly, like, these guys are killing us. Like, they didn't complain about the process. They continued to say, we love DeAaron. We're trying to work it out, so that energy is, I mean, A, Peja wasn't in the room, obviously. And then B, it's way after the fact now. So I get his point. But if you compare the Fox situation, for example, to another Rich Paul situation, Anthony Davis in New Orleans, the energy all the way through there was Pelicans, their fans, everybody saying, like, this is BS. Why are you screwing us? And for whatever reason, the Kings, kind of just took it.
Oh, we'll wrap up here. If I was to say that, I did say this. If I said Zach LaVine is pretty much 2025 Buddy Hield, and I'm not talking about their games, I'm talking about the fascination of the franchise, do you think that's accurate?
I guess. I mean, obviously the backstory with them having given him the deal that he went back to Chicago with when Vlade was the GM, and Vivek liking him, I suppose, but now, I mean, at the same time now there's, and I'm going to probably make some calls on this soon. There's plenty of chatter that Scott Perry is like looking at everything and thinking kind of big at the moment. I don't know what he might actually pull off, but I don't know that this roster is going to stay as is for all that long.
All right. Sam Amick saying that Scott Perry's thinking big. Could Giannis be on the way to Sacramento?
That's what he's saying.
Aggregate that, folks. All right. Thank you for waking up. I'd like to note, too, that you were asleep 20 minutes before we started this interview, and credit where credit's due. The hair is perfect.
Yeah, really good hair.
It really is perfect. So well done, Samuel.
Thank you, buddy. The sink is nearby. I'm going to out myself. We also we did Anchorman style today, so we got tops and no bottoms. We're doing good, buddy.
All right. Well, before the webcam falls and we get booted off the FCC, thank you for joining us. Have a good rest of the finals, and we'll talk to you next week, buddy.
Thanks, guys. Be good.
All right, take care. That's Sam Amick.
Don't stand
That's
up.
a pantsless Sam Amick joining us.